And hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Wednesday episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Brought to you by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. They go the extra mile for you. We try to do the same here on this show every single day. And as you can tell, we got a special guest, and we'll have him for the remainder of the winter. Gary Althiser coming back for season now 4 of Wrestling Wednesday with Gary Althiser. Gary, buddy, it's good to have you back.
Thanks. It's great to be back. I'm excited to do this again. Thankful that you guys still want me back and that we can talk some high school wrestling.
Please, we'd be lost talking wrestling without Gary. All right, so Scotty down there, he's always here on Wednesday. Scotty, how we doing?
I'm good. Ready to rock and roll, and excited to have Gary back. I just hope he doesn't, I gotta be careful because I know at any time he can pull out that Win Dixie on me. So, but it's good to have Gary back.
Scotty, I thought you were volunteering to be in the demo
Uh,
dummy.
I mean, I have to get a little stronger. I gotta start pumping the iron, and then I'll be in the demo.
So this is episode 1 of Wrestling Wednesdays. If you're new to it, we have been growing Wrestling Wednesday every year. It started with just Gary coming on, recapping the wrestling matches. And then we slowly but surely got to a point last year where we had, after episode 1 is kind of our preview episode, we've had a wrestler or a wrestling coach on every episode. And we'll try to our absolute darndest to do that again this year. Episode 1, Gary, we like to preview the season. We have a lot to talk about. The official start date for wrestling is tomorrow in the state of Ohio, December 5th. And we also want to give you the chance to talk about your program as well and have kind of the season preview of the Wellsville wrestling team. You are the head coach of the Tigers down there, as we all know. So, Gary, let's start with kind of like some things you're looking forward to this year.
Hey, I'm just glad to be back into the season. This will be my 10th season as the high school head coach at Wellsville. I have a great time doing it. I have a lot of great people around me. I have a lot of assistant coaches this year, which I'm very, very thankful for. I've got a lot of guys that wanted to come on and help. I got 14 on the team and maybe a couple more coming. And for a school our size, we're one of the smallest public schools in the state that offer wrestling. For school our size, that 14, I feel like we're doing pretty well. Last year was a rebuilding year. We're going to continue that this year. We got a good freshman class coming, and then I got some good classes in the lower grades coming up. I've got a very big 6th grade class coming. So the future is bright. We're just going to continue to try to get better every season and every day. And I think with the staff that I got, I can really make some strides this year.
What I'm hearing is Gary is not retiring anytime soon from coaching wrestling. He's looking at 6th grade. He's like, I've got these kids coming up. I'll be here for a while. Gary, we also want to give a shout out to Chris Colucci, who will be helping us a lot in our wrestling coverage, broadcasting wrestling matches as well. And we'll get him on the phone during the season Wrestling Wednesday as well to talk about the exciting matches that we have on the network this year. Gary, when you talk about just wrestlers that are returning, big names and big programs, let's go through just kind of the things that we have to look forward to this year.
Well, last year, I think I know there were a lot of seniors that graduated last year, a lot of really good wrestlers that graduated, but we still got a lot coming back. The name that stands out to me is Braden Feister from Hoban. He was a freshman last year and one of the best wrestlers in the state and ended up getting hurt right before the postseason started. He looks to be healthy. He's the number 1 ranked heavyweight right now in Division II, and he has a younger brother that's a freshman, is the number 2 ranked 215-pounder in the state. Those are names, the Feisters, to be watching for 100% for sure here on the network, especially. And Feister being the number 1 ranked wrestler at 285, he is the highest ranked wrestler in the YSN family. But we do have a bunch of other wrestlers. I've got all of their names written down, the rankings, how high they are. But I think there are going to be some new names popping up because we did see a lot of guys with a lot of experience and a lot of familiar names graduated last season. So it'll be nice to see some new names in the mix this year.
Talking about new names, we also have new schools since the last we did Wrestling Wednesday. We have signed on Perry from Perry, Ohio, the Perry Pirates, and we also have Southeast who moved into the MVAC and joined the YSN family. Gary, can you talk about those two programs, Perry and Southeast, and what we have to look forward to in the coverage of their wrestling programs this year?
Yeah, anybody that's watched YSN, they know Perry because we have talked about them a lot on the Friday show with DJ on the Power Hour. They battled it out with South Range several years. They won a state title last season. They were one of the best teams in Division 4 this year. Really a top 2, 3, 4 team. But that success translates over onto the wrestling mat. They were actually a Division 3 school last season or the season before, and they moved up to Division 2 now. So they're a new player in Division 2, but really they were in Division 2, moved down to Division 3 for a couple of years, and then they were back up. They are a really traditionally good athletic school in just about every sport. And Ravenna Southeast, another team. They've got a great wrestling tradition, wrestling program. They got several guys ranked. These are great additions to the YSN family, and especially great here for Wrestling Wednesday.
Yeah, so you got to be really excited that we added these two teams, because I think they're teams that you've even talked about in the past, like programs
Right.
you just had to bring up because of how good they were or how much of a problem they would have been for YSN teams in the past. So when you heard that we signed Southeast and Perry, you had to be like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, it's great to have schools like this with good tradition in the sport coming on the YSN family. They play so many schools that are already in the family. It just makes sense to get them on board. It's nice to see them. We'll have a lot of content to talk about, and it's just going to make things more interesting as time goes on to see these kids in these different new schools coming to battle these schools that have been with YSN for a long time.
Gary, I know we're talking to you just one day before the official season starts, but for the people that are tuning in for the first time this season, what are some of the things that go on in the preseason and getting ready for the season? What kind of things are happening in practices in the last couple of weeks to try to get ready for day one tomorrow?
Well, you're trying to cover as much as you can in the amount of time that you're given. Wrestling is a very, very long season. It's 4 months long, and from the time that you get to start to the time of your first match, you only got about 15 practices officially, something like that. Maybe even 1 or 2 less than that. I'd have to look at the calendar. But from the day that you start until your first match, it's 3 weeks, but you're not supposed to do anything on Sundays. You can practice on Saturdays if you want. A lot of schools, like myself, we didn't start until we start on a Friday, but I never start on a Friday because that always seems to be a tough day as far as parents getting their kids home for the weekend. Kids that can only get home by bus, they're not prepared for a Friday start. So we start on a Monday. So really, you're talking about just probably on average 15 practices to get everything in and get ready and really shaking off the cobwebs. It's February, March was a long time ago. That was a whole school year, the previous school year. Trying to get the kids' wind build up, their cardio build up. And as for being a coach, you want to make sure that your schedule's nailed down because sometimes it's not. Sometimes things happen. There are late cancellations in your schedule. Things happen. New schools are being built. Kids are being transferred from one building to another. Things happen. Coaches change. So there are changes in the schedule. And also there's what's called the alpha test or the hydration test that the coaches have to get done. That is something mandated by the state where they will have an assessor who will weigh every kid on your team, measure the kid's body fat, and also measure the kid's hydration to make sure that they're not cutting weight. And they will weigh them, get their body fat recorded, and then you are told as a coach what your kid is allowed to weigh, what your wrestler is allowed to weigh every single day of the year for the rest of the year. So getting that all taken care of, plus all of your physicals, your emergency medical forms, all of that stuff. As a coach, the first 3 weeks are just a blur, a tornado of all these responsibilities you got to get done and get ready. You got to get your kids pictures, make sure they have their equipment, all that stuff. So you're kind of cramming, but man, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm ready to go Saturday.
You hear that, people? It's not all the glory and the coaching during the games. There's hard work that goes into it. Gary's
Exactly.
not just a pretty face over there at Wellsville.
Uh,
When you think about, we're talking about getting ready for the season, there's a lot of football teams in YSN that made pretty deep playoff runs that are starting to just get off. South Rain,
absolutely.
Perry, Poland made a deep playoff run. Urson, all these teams. Hoban made a deep playoff run. When
Yeah.
you think about players that are coming off of a very long football season that are going into wrestling, I mean, I'm sure they've been there, they've done that, they're used to doing it by now. But what do you think is the thing that those coaches are going through, trying to get those kids as ready as possible before they have to get on the mat? Or do you take them off the mat for a couple of weeks and say, hey, first couple matches, maybe you don't wrestle just for your safety?
Yeah, I mean, if your season just finished up like last Friday, just get mentally there. I would say most of the kids are probably not going to wrestle this weekend. The state allows a break. I think it's 2 weeks. So the kids are allowed to take a break with no penalty, for missing. And really, myself as a coach, I would want that because that's a long grind of a football season to go from August 1st all the way. Here we are in December. So you go basically from August 1st to December 1st, in football mode. You're a kid. Take this time off to get your brain right, rest mentally, start thinking about wrestling season. You want to come and practice, that's great. You don't have to wrestle. I'm sure there are some kids that are ready to go. They don't need the time off. That's totally up to them and their parents. But I would have no problem with a kid who went on a run like that taking some time off to get their mind right, maybe just coming in and practicing and watching the matches and just kind of easing themselves into it, because you're going to have an even longer grind with wrestling, an even longer time to go until March. So I mean, if you're talking from August all the way through March with no break, I don't think that's healthy. More risk for injury. And it's not like the rest of these kids who, if they didn't even make the playoffs, they've been done for over a month and a half or so, something like that, before they start. So I just think it just depends on the kid.
All right, so now what we like to do with episode 1 is we like to kind of turn into a coach's corner for you as well. Let's meet the team. Let's meet the Wellsville wrestling team. Go through the roster, the kids that you're going to be highlighting this year, the ones that are going to be, the big names for you, and talk about your program.
So I've got a young team. They're getting more experienced. I've got a group of freshmen coming up that had some really good success as they were wrestlers in junior high. Dale Hanlon, Colton Malone. Colton was an OVAC champion last year, or OVC champion, excuse me, junior high. They called the OVCs. He was an OVC champion in the heavyweight class. He only lost one match last year. Ironically, it was his first match of the year, and then he pinned every wrestler he wrestled after that. Ryder Culp. Those guys make a nice group, a foundation. And then we got a lot of familiar faces, guys that have been with me for a long time. Jake Bates, he's a senior. I like to talk about Jake as much as I can. Jake has never missed a single practice. He's never missed a single match. He's never missed a single wrestling commitment, whether it was an awards assembly, if we did community service. He has never, ever missed anything. I really like having him around. He's a nice kid to have in the room. He's a senior. He didn't start wrestling until he was a freshman, but never in my coaching career. This is year 19 total for me in the sport. I coached at the elementary level, I coached at the junior high level, and I coached at the high school level. I've never had anybody, and I never heard of anyone not even missing a single practice, not for a sickness, not for anything. So he's back for his senior year. And I've got a group of guys with mixed experience in between there. So the only thing, the problem we're running into right now is they're all bunched up at the same weight. We're going to have our wrestle offs today, and I've got, I think, 4 or 5 weight classes where I've got multiple kids in the same weight. So we're going to see how that goes, and hopefully their weights will separate, and I'll be able to fill 11 or 12 of the 14 weight classes, which for me, being such a small school, that's something really to get excited about.
Scotty, get in the conversation, buddy.
So I was wondering, Gary, I wanted to ask you, is it like after every year, and then once the season is coming up again, the new wrestling season, do you just kind of like always wipe the slate clean and kind of reset everything, or is there certain things that you're still learning from year to year that you maybe incorporate, or now that you're 10 years in, it just kind of you kind of got it down and you just basically reset every time?
That's a great question, Scotty. I know my first few years, my first probably 3, 4, 5 years, I soaked up as much as I could. I read as much as I could. I watched as many videos, talked to as many coaches as I could. There are some things that are set. I like my practice a certain way. I like how we have it set up, where the way that we warm up, how I make the announcements to the team, things that we do. But I try to learn as much as I possibly can. I, I don't. There are guys out there who forgot more about wrestling than I'll ever know. Try to learn from them as much as I can. I try to learn from the kids, and I try to do my best to adjust uh, to the kids. That's the one thing that I don't ever want to stop learning, is just how the kids are communicating, what reaches them and what doesn't. Every single kid is reached a different way, if you ask me, and they're constantly changing. As these generations come and go, they like different things. They think different ways. They respond to different things. So I try to learn that way. Wrestling's always going to be wrestling, but it's evolving and getting to a crazy level now. Uh, the level of high school wrestling now is out of this world. There are 17-year-old high school juniors who are beating national champions. There's a kid, the number one kid in the country. He's from Ohio. His name's Marcus Blaze. He wrestled in a tournament over the summer and beat 3 national champions and a 4-time national finalist to get to the Olympic trial finals. And I believe he did lose there, but he made the Olympic team because they take the top 3, and he made the world team. Now, in the past, I mean, when I was a kid, you're talking 20-something years ago, and even in the past 15, even 5 years ago, it would have been unheard of for a high school kid to do that. But to answer your question, I am trying to learn because the sport is continuing to evolve and it's continuing to grow. And because of the internet, it is really exploding. The way wrestling is, it's a sport where there are so many different ways to wrestle that before the internet, it was kind of, you knew what your coach knew. And you knew maybe what some kid you wrestled did some new move, and you talked to him after the match, and maybe he'd show it to you. And now with the internet and the connections you can make, the communication you can have with people, the information you can get on where practices, open mats, coaches are, things like that, everybody is learning at such a high pace. And year over year, they're getting better and better and better. You've got to, as a coach, continue to learn and keep up, or you are going to be left behind very easily. And I try to get younger guys on my coaching staff. They've got a lot of experience. I got a couple really good younger guys on my staff who've been wrestling since they could walk. They know all every move that you could possibly imagine. I could just call out a move and they'll know 3 or 4 variants of it, and they'll even know new ways to hit moves, or just they'll know new moves. I love that. I love learning like that, and I love that my kids get to learn. So I come in, I think I've learned a lot, and there are a lot of questions that I had when I started that have been answered, but I'll never stop asking questions, and I'll never stop trying to learn new things, because the minute that I do, I'll no longer be effective.
Gary, we don't let episode 1 go, or coach, or any coach's corner for that matter, without letting you talk about the other people on your staff that help you build this wrestling program, and the people that are behind the scenes that do a lot to make sure Wellsville Wrestling, that's a tongue twister, by the way, Wellsville Wrestling, is as good as it possibly can. So highlight the names that stand beside you and stand behind you.
Yeah, sure. I've got Skylar Lazier and Brendan Sievers, both on my staff. They're both younger guys. They're in their 20s, early mid 20s. They both are multiple time state placers, OVAC champions. They're my technicians. There's the guys that I go to for moves. Dickie Schilling, he is the high school principal at Wellsville. He's a former head coach, former high school head coach. He's also on the staff with me. I got Tommy Redmond. He's been with me for a while. Jimmy Board, he's been coaching at the elementary level. He decided to move up this year. Bobby Wetzel, Nate Ketchum, he's been with me for a very long time. Caden Weekly, Jason Dowling, those guys are all with me and have been with me at the elementary level. We got a really good foundation at the elementary level with Coach Charles Fisher and his staff and everything that they do there to get the kids ready and build the foundation. April Joy takes care of the Takedown Club and help us with our uniforms and fundraising for things. I couldn't be more blessed having so many people around me to help keep this program healthy. It's not an easy thing to do at a small school. We've talked about this on the show for the last 4 years. I've got to compete with basketball. I've got to compete with bowling. And the bowling program in Wellsville is crazy good. They just, they win 85 to 95% of their matches every single year. And that's very enticing. A basketball program is always good. I think there are 25 boys on the basketball team this season. I've got to compete with those things. I got to compete with the burnout from the fall sports and cell phones and video games and jobs. So all those people help me keep the program healthy so the kids continue to want to come out.
All right, Gary, let's have kind of a preview of each conference. Let's go through these conferences, pick maybe some teams to watch, maybe some wrestlers to watch. Let's start in VAC. Why not? Let's start with the MVAC, some teams that you think are highlighted to watch in the MVAC, and some wrestlers that you think might be big names in the MVAC as well.
Okay, so you're pulling my memory.
I'm testing your
here.
conference knowledge.
You are
MVAC. I don't know if wrestling puts them in tiers or if they're all together.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Like we're in the EOAC, we do not have an EOAC champion because they require a certain amount.
So,
but from the MVAC, I know you said Ravenna, Southeast there, right?
Southeast, Crestview, Liberty, Champion, Newton Falls, Western Reserve, Springfield. I don't know how many of these teams.
So I mean, Southeast is coming in with a good team, a solid team. They've got several ranked kids. Crestview, I did see. I think they got 16 kids on their team this year. That's really good for them. That's up. Those guys there are doing a great job. Western Reserve is one of the teams with a new coach this year. They got a former head coach from Boardman High School and the former head coach of the South Range Raiders are both there this year. I expect to see big things from them. Youngstown Liberty coach Ryan Williams is still doing a great job. He's got a huge roster. Those guys at Liberty, just every single year, they've got a ton of kids on the team. Whatever they do, I would love to learn their secret on recruiting because they fill every weight class every single year in and year out. They've done a good job there, and I expect good things from them. Coach Williams took over for Coach Haiti, and I think that they haven't missed a beat.
Also, can't leave out Garfield, right? I mean, they've had 2 straight seasons where they've had just phenomenal wrestling. So
yes, they've had state champions. I think they've had 3 individual state champions the last 2 seasons. Obviously, they had a great football season. I don't expect that to slow down. I went through every single YSN school to get the rankings, and I saw 3 or 4 Garfield names on there. So they're going to pick up right where they left off. Austintown Fitch, I saw had 2 ranked wrestlers, and that's a Division I school. And one thing I wanted to mention is that some schools changed divisions this year, and that's a big deal. Louisville went from a Division II Division I school. Oof. Big change for them. They've been at Division II. They were Division II dual state champs a few years ago. So to go to Division I, that's a big move for them. A couple of Division II schools moved down. Poland and Girard used to be Division II, are now Division III. So that's a big move for those guys too. And the state made some big changes this year in scoring. It used to be a takedown was worth 2 points. Now it's worth 3. Huge 50% rise there. And it made a change with back points, with near fall points. It used to be you needed a 2 count to get 2 points and a 5 count to get 3. Now 1, 2, 3, 4 count gets you 4 points, and subsequently each one will get you 1 less. So those are huge. And also the out of bounds rule change. A lot of people who watch wrestling, some matches can take forever because they keep going out of bounds. Well, now they're taking on the college rule, where if you have 1 point of contact, if one wrestler has 1 foot, 1 toe, 1 elbow in, the clock will keep running and the match will keep going. So with the increased points, I think we're going to see tech falls come faster, which a technical fall is if you're winning by 15 points or more, they stop the match, like a mercy rule, like a 10-run rule in baseball. Mm-hmm. So because you can score more points with these takedowns and back points, and you can keep wrestling out of bounds, it should speed up things at these tournaments, which I think is a great thing for parents. And it's a good thing for the kids, too, because it's going to shorten their Saturdays.
So basically, now you have to be completely out of bounds for the clock to
Yeah,
stop.
exactly. Yes, you have to completely be, both guys can completely be out of bounds. In the past, in our rules interpretation, they would always justify not doing it because the quarters, if you've ever been to a high school wrestling tournament, they're tight. The quarters are tight. They've got usually 3 mats spread out on a high school basketball gym floor, and they're wall to wall. They don't want kids wrestling out of bounds getting hurt, but I think that they're going to at least try it this year. And I know the officials, hey, be on high alert. If you're tight to a wall, just blow it dead. But not every place is like that. If they can keep wrestling out of bounds, let them go.
I'm sure when you wrestle at Fitch, you're going to be fine.
Yeah,
you know, there's a lot of room.
Liverpool has a huge gym. Waterloo's got 2 gyms and a wrestling room that they use for their tournament. They've got 7 mats set up at one time. So places like that, you're going to be able to wrestle out of bounds and, keep the clock going. And I think overall, this is a great thing for the sport. As far as the points change, last year is when it started with the college. And I wasn't sure how I would feel about it. I went in with a blank slate, and nothing much really changed other than matches shortened. And they did some studies. The one thing they didn't study that I really want to see is were there comebacks. If you're down big, you can come back quicker now.
Yeah.
So it used to be, a big move get you 5 points. Now it gets you 7. That's a big difference. So I'm interested to see, as a coach, are we going to get kids that coming back easier now because they can score more? You just have to balance that with getting down big early, and that tech fall will come quicker these days.
As a coach, that makes it a little bit easier to sell the mindset, like never give up in this match, because you can
absolutely
make one move and you have 7 points and then you're right back in it.
Exactly. If you're down by 14, that's 2 big moves. That's a takedown and back points twice, and you're tied. Or maybe you're down 2 with the 2 escapes that you give up in the process. But it's interesting. I'm glad the state is evolving. I'm glad the NFHS is evolving. And I'm glad that they're continuing to try to advance this sport because it's continuing to grow with girls. We know this. We talked about it. Being at the state tournament last year, seeing the girls' state tournament, it was so much fun for me because I don't have girls on my team. I don't ever get to see it. It was just like something new and fresh. And I'm glad that the state and the sport is keeping up with the times.
YSN had a very successful girls wrestling season on that side. I don't want to leave some programs out. We got to talk about Beaver Local. We got to talk about the Beavers because they always have a great wrestling program. Bobby Buhite, of course, is a freak of nature. We've talked to him a couple of seasons in a row. Talk about the Beavers and the Potters since they're both in that same conference in the Buckeye 8.
Yeah, Beaver Local comes up with 4 guys ranked. Justice Fisher, he kind of surprised some people last year, getting on the podium at the 106-pound weight class. He's ranked 6th. Bobby Buhite, he's ranked 2nd. He's had a great career. He's ranked in the top 2 there. That's good to see a kid that works as hard as he is, and a kid that has the mindset for the sport to be ranked that high. The Hours kid is ranked 9th at 150, and then they have a freshman, Jake Hughes, who's ranked 4th at 157. They're going to be a tough team to deal with. The coaches there, they know how to get these guys ready. And I think last year they really, I want to say their kids came through at the end of the season. Their kid, from what I saw, their kids at the state tournament, I think they peaked at the state tournament. And as a coach, that is all you can ask for, is for your kids to be wrestling at their best at the end of the year. So whatever Coach McComas and his staff did last season, I expect that to continue because they had some guys who came through and I think really surprised some people, just like Justice Fisher, and got on that podium. And I expect to see the same coming forward. East Liverpool, they've got a couple of ranked kids. Tristan Eccles, he was a state placer last season. He's ranked 8th at 120 pounds. And then Damon Stansberry at 175 pounds. He is ranked 16th right now this season. I talked to Coach Stansberry, Damon's dad, the other day. They got a bunch of kids on the team. He said they're going to fill just about every weight class. So things for them should be continuing to move. And then, of course, Coach Jeremy Shaw, he was the YSN Wrestling Coach of the Year. He had a state champion. He had 2 state placers, and they had a great year. Their boys and their girls had a great season last year. So good luck to the Potters.
And then we got to talk about your EOAC, the teams that you're going to be playing this year. You know, United has a great program. Talk about that conference.
Speaking of United, Coach Kenny Beaumarriage, the longtime coach there, the guy who built that program, he moved on. He is now the head coach at Minerva, which is where he coached golf and I believe where his kids go to school. So good luck to Coach Kenny. We're still in contact. He's going to come to the Buck Bailey this year. He's going to bring his team to Wellsville. So that'll be about the only time that I see him there. But he had some assistant coaches that decided to take over there. So that's what's happening in United. Columbiana, I saw their roster has grown. They've got a lot of younger guys on the team. They're doing well. Southern Local graduated Gabe Lissenbach last season, but Johnny Bailey is back this year. He was a state qualifier last season there for the Indians. East Palestine changed hands, leads up like Kunzelman. He'll be taking over there. He's been the junior high coach for several seasons as well. And Letonia is still trying to get their wrestling club approved as an official school sport. But Coach Via there, he's going to be running that as a club again this season. So hopefully they can get approved to become an official school sport. But I think he's doing a good job. That's a small school in the county. And to be able to just have a wrestling team, I think speaks volumes.
And then we can't also leave out the NE8. We got to talk about South Range, Poland, Hubbard, Girard, Lakeview, Niles as well in those programs.
Yeah, I talked to some of the South Range coaches. They've got a really big size roster. They've got a lot of junior high kids and a lot of high school kids. So things there are continuing to do well. Tyson C. Schultz is ranked second in this state at, I believe, I think he's at 165, 157. I could be wrong there, but he's ranked second wherever he is. He's ranked second. Caden Welker is ranked in the top 12. He's coming back for his senior season now. I know that he's, excited about that, and his dad and him been working hard. They put in a lot of time. Hubbard, Hackwelder, he's ranked. I believe he's predicted to place to get onto the podium there with Hubbard. Hubbard had that great season last year. Girard, like I said, and Poland both moved down a division. That's going to be very interesting to see how those guys do in Division III after being Division II for pretty much most of their existence, at least recently. They've always been Division II, that, as far as I know it. Coach Beadle in Poland had a state placer with his girls. His girls team is growing. That guy's putting in work. He's working 7 days a week. He has boys tournaments on Saturdays, girls tournaments on Sundays. He's got Coach Arnett there as assistant with him, a couple of really great guys, a couple of Wellsville grads there running the show there. I expect them to do well, and I really think they'll do great there in Division III.
I don't think we left anyone out, Coach. I don't think are there any programs that you think we haven't hit that need well, you know what? Canfield, I don't think we brought up the Cardinals.
Well, I'll tell you what.
They always have a great program. Well, there's so many.
Want me to go through real quick. And forgive me, folks who are watching, if I miss somebody, please forgive me.
Right.
I try to do this manually by hand, the old school way, with a pencil and a pencil sharpener, and a bunch of messages to Anthony. Is this school still in the YSN network? So I'll do this really quick. At Louisville in Division I, Colton Road 17th at 120, Montgomery 9th at 26, Caden Barker 9th at 132, Eric Chris 16th at 38. And Wyatt Smith, 13th at 175. And Austintown Fitch, the other Division I, Dominic Fantone, 19th at 126. And Devin Phillips at 9th at 190. In Division II, at 126, O'Donnell from Howland, 12th. At 132, Diego Sanchez from Edgewood, 17th. Jacob Lewis from Jefferson, 17th. 138, Tyler Schrar from Canfield. He's ranked third at 138. And, of course, Buhite is second from Beaver Local. Nick Joseph at 144 from Canfield is 19th. At 150, there's a bunch of kids here. Hours from Beaver Local, 9th. Joey Connor from Salem, 11th. Braden Haley from Conneaut, 19th. And Mike Ochoa from Edgewood, 20th. And Chance Shoke, 13th. 157, we've got Jake Hughes from Beaver at 4th. And Drew Smith from Perry at 16th. 165, Stansbury from Liverpool at 18th. 175, Aiden Stecker from Salem. That's another Salem kid, ranked 7th. Hackwelder from Hubbard, 9th. 190, we got Chris Majevic. Man, I'll tell you how many Majevics are there from Howland. That family is a great wrestling family. They've been in this sport. I think the entire time I've coached, there's been a Majevic on this Howland team. He's ranked 9th. Matt Webster from Jefferson, 11th. Antonius Bertone from Perry, 12th. Gabe Miller, Canfield, 15th. And Aiden Patchen from Salem, 17th. That's 190. At 215, the Feister kid, the freshman from Hoban, 2nd. And his older brother, the sophomore, at 285, ranked 1st at Hoban. And D3, not nearly as many. Braden Reed from Brookfield, 106 is 15th. And Martin from Southeast is also ranked there. 113, we got Lewicki from Garrettsville Garfield, 12th. Cameron Dye from Southeast, 16th. 120, Luke Kaufman, Garrettsville Garfield, 22nd. 126, Caden Walker from South Range. There he is, number 11. Dom Kimball from Southeast, 13th. Jaden Scott, Jackson Milton, the first time we've heard from them today. Jackson Milton's got a couple guys ranked in there at 14th. 132, Trevor Osborne, Southeast, 3rd. 138, Jack McDevitt from Jackson Milton is 14th. Landon Andel from Garrettsville Garfield, 16th. And we've got a Poland wrestler, Jake Delvin, I think, is ranked 13th. Excuse me if I wrote that down wrong. Tyson C. Schultz at 157, South Range, ranked 2nd. And 190, Johnny Bailey from Southern Local is ranked 6th. And I believe at 165, Southern Local has another wrestler ranked as well. Sorry if I forgot somebody. I tried to write down every single person I could, and I've got 4 or 5 pages of notes here. And I ran out of room, so I'm all over.
Ran out of room. Gary's doing Omen's work over there. We appreciate it, man. We do.
It's a lot of fun. I appreciate being on here.
Gary, that's going to do it for episode 1 on Running Point, Wrestling Wednesday Running Point. And like I said, as the season goes on, we will try to get either a wrestler or a wrestling coach on with us every week so we can highlight the great athletes and the programs that we have on the YSN family. So come back next week for Wrestling Wednesday episode 2 with Gary Althiser. Gary, as always, I want to say you're more than welcome to join the second half of the show. We understand if you can't, but when we go to a commercial break, if you want to stay on, you're more than welcome to BS with me and Scotty about local sports. But we will take a commercial break, and me and Scotty and maybe Gary, who knows, we'll see how the commercial break will be back after the break.